to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
Thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharp nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 384. Actually, it says 383. That is wrong. I'm going to get my top insurance on that, which is to say myself later. Very excited to talk to this guy. He's been on the show before, but it's been quite a while. How long has it been? I looked it up because I am that diligent that I managed to do a search in my search engine of choice. September 3rd, 2017. So that would be nearly 7 years ago that I last talked to Rick Sims of Didjits, Gaza Strippers, the incredible Just Fred record by Fred Schneider. And it's been a while. And there's news, and I'm very excited to tell you guys all about it because there is a best of, I don't know if you would call it like a point of entry on Touch and Go Records called Strictly Dynamite. That's out. Double LP that takes from the early beginnings to throughout the whole thing. And anyone that listens to this show knows I'm a huge Didjits guy. So I'm very excited to honestly check it out for myself, but also to talk to the man himself because it's been a little bit since he's been on. A little bit. So before we do that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer who's been touring and recording for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 384. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicversal will achieve that goal and also helps keep the lights on. If you like the show or even a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, or even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords, and it's just a darn nice thing to do. So Rick Sims, one of my guitar guys, as in guys that I like that play guitar. And look, again, I've talked a lot about the Didjits on this show, and it's an honor to have him back, and there's a goddamn good reason, because there's a Didjits best of. If that is any reason to discover and or rediscover that band, I don't know what is. So without any further ado, Rick Sims, welcome back, man.
Hey, what's up?
I was stoked to see Strictly Dynamite, and I was like, what an awesome idea to give people like a one-stop shop for here was all things Didjits. I love it.
Yeah, man. We had to do something with those boxes and boxes of shit in the basement, and it was like, oh, we had some old tapes that we made in the chicken shed that what are we going to do with that? Oh, well, we better not lose all that stuff. Actually, it was all Dave Landis' fault. He's the guy that did all the artwork. It's Shake It Loose graphics.
Right, yeah.
He was pushing me. He was like, hey, we got to do something with this stuff before we lose it. And so we did it. I mean, it's a great. I'm glad we did it. Don't get. It's not like I had to be dragged along to do it, but it turned out really, really fucking awesome.
Yeah. No, and it's great because I feel like if people know, like people that know, like I think I don't remember what I talked about last time. It was 7 years ago. I can't remember what happened 7 hours ago. You know what I mean? But I wore out my Hey Judester cassette. Because I played it so much.
Man, what are you, 50?
Yeah, exactly. I look very good for my age.
You too.
But that's something where I just happen to know. I happen to know because being a West Coast guy for most of my life.
Really?
I never got to. Yeah, I Oakland. I never got to see Didjits live. So all I knew was I was like, oh, that's an interesting band name. I wonder what that sounds like. And then I saw the record cover. And I was like, wow, that looks cool. I think I'm going to get this cassette.
I knew we'd get somebody with that clever spelling. So I'm glad you got hooked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those years of being misspelled on marquees paid off.
God, I can only imagine. Oh, Jesus Christ! Like it's bad. Like I feel like if you have a band name over one word, forget it. It's over. Like no one will ever get it right. Like let alone a sentence long band name. Don't get me started on that. But people, spelling is fundamental apparently. But you wouldn't know it compared with marquees and billing and flyers and such.
People just don't give a fuck. Some guys like it's your day to do the marquee. Who's playing? Oh, what? The digits? How do you spell? Oh, what? I don't know. I'm fuck this.
Who cares?
We spell with a J. Okay.
That can't be right.
Dijits. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. I want to go home or start drinking early on my shift. Anyway.
DJIDGITS. Didjits. Yeah, I mean, so I didn't have the experience that most people that are Didjits fans had, which is just the relentless live show experience and playing and whatever. I came in from the other way. I came in from like hearing the records and enjoying the music, and basically your warped take on rock and roll, taking it back to its more nasty, gnarly roots, and which I was 100% in for immediately from the first note of the first song. But I feel like it's harder without context, I think, sometimes. So it's great that, like, okay, so there's going to be this thing that it's for Record Store Day, right? Okay, so it's coming to and you got people have a point of entry, right? Hey, there was this thing called Didjits, and it sounds like this, and here's a bunch of weird stuff that comes with it. Because of course, some people know, it's especially, like Steve Albini was always a booster. I think there's a nice quote from him in the thing. Offspring are clearly fans.
I don't know if they're fans, man.
Really?
I mean, I think they were doing the record, and then a guy, my friend Chris, turned them on to. But I don't know for sure. But it sort of sounded like they definitely got talked into doing that song for that record. So I don't know if it was. I don't know which came first. They were fans, or they became fans after they heard the song that they ended up putting on their record.
Got it. Well, any which way you slice it, like it brought at least one of the songs to a larger audience, and there's nothing wrong with that, to be clear. But
yes, it was lovely. It was. It sold a lot of records. and that was really awesome.
Yeah, but I feel like there was always something with the Didjits where it was kind of grindy and kind of just like very intense and like madcap, but also coming from a place of love from all things rock and roll, or at least as they should be.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what it was. I mean we tried to, or I tried to, it through a haze of substance abuse and all that stuff. It was like, and I figured that was sort of part of it, because rock and roll equals insanity, right. And that was what I tried to get across in a way, or try to not get across, but fulfill that role of insanity. And part of that was like when I think back on Little Richard, when I think back on Jerry Lee Lewis, I think of like those people are nuts.
Yeah,
They're
actual
nuts.
insane people. Yeah,
Yes.
in a good way. Not a bad way, but
Yes,
depending on the location of the guns in Jerry's case.
Yeah, I think they could be. I think they're probably not really great people to be around.
Right.
But it was like that manic energy, that sense of wrong, that sense of like danger, and that sense of like, hey, let's not lose. I wanted to keep that alive, keep the genesis of the rock and roll alive. Right. And back then, I feel like, first of all, it was the manic energy of just like, come on, Little Richard, woo, and he wears the head thing and
outlandish looking,
hair, and it's like, wah, and just like it kind of seemed possessed, and I sort of and as you hear on the records, I think a lot of that manic energy comes across, but it does come from an honest place of like, let's bring rock and roll, not modernize it, but bring it into today.
With the awareness of punk rock and the fact that music didn't stop in 1965, and like, yeah, there's the, I mean, thinking about you have what passed for in rock in the 80s was like a hollowed out shell of, gated snares, guitars that barely sound like guitars. Listen to that Born in the USA, that freaking keyboard is cranked up so goddamn loud. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, man. If it's kind of strange, when we came on the scene, of course, it was punk rock. Everybody knew what punk rock. It wasn't like we thought we were coming from a place of total originality, although we tried like hell, but we just we were rock and roll,
Yeah.
But we also, I don't know, we had a sense of, we know the punk rock world exists. We are in that world and we are going to take a place in that world, but it's not going to be comfortable for anybody. No one's going to be particularly comfortable. The punk rockers showed up and they're like, what is this? And the people that were like there for, the rock and roll people was like, oh, they're really good, but what? No one, I feel like we kind of, I don't know if we outsmarted ourselves sometimes.
You're between two worlds almost, right? And where it's like, yeah, there's the rock and roll world is like, wow, these guys are intense. And then the punk rock world is like, what is this? What's happening right now?
Yeah. And I remember, we would go around the country playing, we were supposedly punk rock and but we were playing shows with hardcore bands and it was like, man, this gig sucks, this bill sucks, we don't need to be paired with 5 hardcore bands in Norwalk, Connecticut, because I feel like people, this is not who we are. This isn't the definition of what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
And
there's no mosh parts. I mean, how
yeah, it was stupid, and we made fun of those people, and we did it from the stage, and so of course we weren't liked so much because we were like, would you quit bumping into people, everybody, or but it isn't like, I don't know. I feel like we never got along in the political world either. Like we were always a little bit, But let me put it this way. We would not be making that music today. We would not be making lyrically making that music today. We would not be doing that sort of stuff today. A lot of that shit was just wrong. And I look back on it and I go like, it gives me a little, And
you were pushing buttons at the time, but but that was like the most crazy thing you could do. But
yeah, well, we're definitely pushing buttons, but it wasn't necessarily, we were pushing buttons to push buttons. We weren't pushing buttons because of deep political beliefs or thoughts.
Yeah.
We hated everything. We hated everybody, and there was an equal opportunity take a shit on you. So I don't know. This sort of sounds like I'm what do you call it? Like it's not well thought out, but it was kind of well thought out. It was kind of like a meta approach to the person on stage who gets control. When I'm on stage, when I was on stage, I controlled the narrative. I controlled the I don't know what was going to happen in that 30 minutes to an hour that we were going to play. You know, whether or not people were listening to us, whether or not people were really into us, I had the microphone and people were going to hear it. And a lot of times it was very, I don't know, you people suck. And this is why. And I just had to say that your town sucks. Mm-hmm. So who's ready to rock?
Yeah, now that I'm done belittling you, like, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be like, yeah, we do suck.
Yeah, he's right.
Oh, yeah,
we're not that great.
Suck. Yeah. You know, I think, and everybody kind of knew that I was doing a piss take on.
Well, because it was so over the top, right? Because it's sort of like, it's like, this is almost the idea of like, here's the irascible rock and roll guy who thinks he's too big for this town.
Yeah, well, of course, that's all a thing of rock. That's what kind of rock and roll was always about. It was the big rock and roll guy would come to town unless it was Rush, and then they were all very, what do you call it? Very humble. But they, but you know, the rock and roll guy would come to town, and this, like I remember, I grew up in the 70s, and the rock and roll thing, he'd be the lead singer. He'd have on his sexy pants, and everybody go, "Woo, big star coming to town." And I'd be like, "Yeah, woo!" And I, you know, I would always kind of poke fun of that through being that kind of person, like, I'm the star. I'm here to play the music for y'all. You ready? Woo! And sometimes people didn't understand that I had a meta sort of approach. And that was like poking fun at the genre, poking fun at the art form while still doing the best I could to put forward the best art form, version of that art form that I could possibly conjure up. You didn't ever see us live. You didn't see us live?
I never saw you play live.
You poor fucker.
I had tickets to the Touch and Go reunion thing too, and I didn't. I couldn't go. I couldn't.
Oh man!
I got laid off that week. I couldn't afford to do it.
Oh, now see, you should have hit me up. I would have let you in free.
That would have been great.
Yeah,
but yeah. So you're celebrating the form and kind of like dismantling it at the same time, right? Like it's sort of like you're able to poke fun at it because you love it.
Yeah, poke fun at the ridiculous. Yes, exactly, and poke fun at the ridiculousness of it. You know, there was a lot of like, I would go like, "Hey, all that hot pussy out there tonight, yeah," and of course that's just so cliche, and so you know, so awful and everything. But rock and roll for me growing up was like Ted Nugent, who I think is a big total jackass. We all hate Ted Nugent, right?
The absolute worst. I mean, yeah,
everybody hates Ted Nugent.
Like if maybe if he had written a decent riff in 30 years, I wouldn't be so mad at him. But like, Jesus Christ, he's like just like a hot take of the worst ideas possible.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, not only that,
once played music.
His last good note was played in December 31st, 1979.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of people, I say something like that and the audience goes like, "Oh, what a complete fucking dick that guy is."
They're engaging with that at face value. They're engaging,
and rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so. And other people go like, "Ha ha, he's pretending like he's like that rock star dude. That's fucking awesome.
He's doing the thing." Yeah.
And then there's people going like, "Yeah, there is a lot of hot pussy in the audience tonight."
And just engaging with as an earnest statement.
Yes. Yes. So then all the lines become blurred. Who are these guys? What are they doing?
Are they
we
actually
can't
assholes or are they playing assholes? Who knows?
Yeah,
you know?
we can't trust anything that's going on, which reminds me of who I came onto this guy later on, even after the Didjits, but I was like, oh my God, I think that's what the Didjits were kind of like, was Tony Clifton.
Oh
I
my
don't know if
God.
you know
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Andy
Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he would come out and he would do a total, I don't know, do like a commentary, not a commentary like verbally, but come out and be a horrible,
the worst. Yeah, just
stand-up comic, the most rude stand-up comic.
Mean and rude, not funny at all.
Not funny, but funny because it wasn't funny.
Because, right, the meta-contextual elements of it, sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think I was trying. I was trying to do. Whether it was successful or not, that's for everybody else to decide. But it sure was a lot of fun. I fucked with a lot of people, and oh my God, it was so good.
Well, and you're working in a format that's, you know, like also embodying the tropes, both wonderful and ridiculous, of like, you know, your Jerry Lee Lewis and
oh yeah,
you know, like Little Richard and just like all of the
Iggy
biggest.
Pop.
All the biggest, yeah, in some cases great talents, but like outsized personalities, justified and warranted or not, you know, like that, like it's something where it works in a couple levels, just like Tony Clifton, right? So but also that's something that, like, I feel like if you did that like this, like if the Didjits came out and did that this year, nobody would stop talking about it on the internet. You know what I mean? There'd be endless discourse about it.
Yeah, of course, and Riley. So you know, it's so funny how we talk about. You know, I hear people complain about like, oh, today you couldn't get away with that, and I mean, I think that's okay.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe you should, like, a lot of times. Oh, you can't tell that joke today. Yeah, because it's a terrible joke.
Yeah,
and, like the whole point was being cruel, and that was the only reason why it was a quote unquote joke. Why don't you write a better joke?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, you know, back when we were being crazy or whatever, you know, we weren't concerned about whether this was going to offend, and if it did offend, that's even better. And
Right.
we were on a suicide mission. I mean, almost. It was like,
Yeah,
just go out there and let, you know, if somebody has a problem with me when I get off the stage, well, then it's time to start throwing fit, you know, and I'm not a fighter. I'm not some big guy who's going to go, hey, let's get it, you know, but it was all part of the rock and roll mayhem. It was all balled together. But today, people just wouldn't get it. They barely got it back then.
well, no, and if you did today, like the worst people in the world would be like, yeah, I agree with all the points he's making. It's like, no, no, you idiot, no, that's not it.
That happened back then too. You know, it was like, oh, I don't want to track this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't get to choose your audience, right? So
I was like, hey, dude, hey, you know, it's a gag, right?
Right.
We're not
this isn't for real, right?
Yeah, we're not doing that sort of thing. But you know, it was a dangerous game to play because, you know, and I think we're trying to handle that as a society today, how to handle this. You know, this new sense of like what's right, what's wrong, what's been historically right, what's been historically wrong, and trying to grapple with all that stuff, you know. And we handle it. We're trying to do it, and it's very handled very clumsily a lot. So, but we got to get started somewhere. And you know, I don't think that wasn't the thing back then. That just wasn't.
Well, and things of their time are reacting to the elements of their time, and they shouldn't be retroactively applied to modern sensibilities where it's completely different. You know, like look at okay, I'm on a movie show. We just said Glengarry Glen Ross, one of my favorite movies, right?
Yeah.
Which has more fucks per minute than almost anything that isn't directed by Quentin Tarantino, and some like staggeringly like whoa kind of homophobic slurs. But like, look. It was not only a product of its time, that's how those people actually spoke. And if you can't handle that, then like, okay, I get where you might not watch the movie, but it would be disingenuous to like treat that as like, wow, look how insensitive they were. It's like, no, they're like, these guys are not role models.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, Alec Baldwin is not the role model in that movie. It's a farce. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't think this was a lot of times when it came to Didjits, and when we would write our lyrics, a lot of times we would come from this point of view of like, okay, the person singing this song is an idiot, and he has these points of view which are completely wrong. This like I was recording with Steve Albini then, and he was like, why would people be offended? We know this guy is to be ridiculed. He's an idiot. We understand it. We get it. And I learned all that. I picked up a lot of that stuff from Steve. Is like he would sing songs about lighting kerosene and about
horrific scenarios.
Yeah, he would create these characters and these stories around and I just basically ripped it off and did a lot of that myself. And
it's not like you're saying like, here's a cool guy doing cool guy stuff. It's like, no, this is an allegory for a terrible person.
Yes,
interacting
exactly.
in life, right?
I'm not doing that stuff.
Yeah, this is not me.
I don't believe in what this character does, even though I sing from that point of view.
Right.
Believe it or not, that's the third person point of view. David Mamet doesn't believe all that stuff that he puts in his play. He is portraying characters and doing a reflection of society in a way. And it's funny you mentioned Glengarry and Glenn Ross, is that my wife is directing it at DePaul right now.
Oh, no kidding. That's awesome.
Like, what's up? And it's funny because in this day and age, it's like, wow, that's a sketchy play to do in this day and age.
It would be jarring for some audience members, I'm sure. Right?
Oh yeah, well, jarring for the kids that are in the cast at DePaul, because there's there's gay people in the cast, there's trans people, there's Black people in the cast, and it's like, you got to have that conversation, got to look at it, and we can't go this play. I mean, we can't. We could shelve it. Of course, we could shelve it. But we can't say that. I don't know.
Well, some people will try to say, well, it's a bad piece of art. Like, no, it's not a bad piece of art because it's challenging you. Like, it's if you can, and again, some people do not want to accept like, okay, voice of the monster or whatever. But like, I get it, fine, and that's a different way to engage it. But don't say it's a bad piece of art or ineffective, because it isn't. It's again, some of the most elegant use of the word "fuck" in a serious screenplay. You know what I mean? But like,
and that's where I think I think we're trying to figure that out, and we're not we're in the midst of it and handling it, clumsily, and like maybe getting offended and putting stuff on the shelf that maybe we need to take a second thought about. But maybe some of the stuff maybe
deserves to be on the shelf. Not Glengarry and Ross though.
And I think we're just like kind of working our way as a society to figure out that whole situation out. And
it's a messy cultural process as we get to be more Star Trek rather than Battlestar Galactica,
Yeah, which is to say that Didjits definitely would not fit into today's society, and I don't think they should. I wouldn't make that music. I wouldn't write those lyrics today, and I don't look back on it and go like everything that I said back then. Like I said, we were raised in hell to raise hell. We were offending just to be offensive. We were, there came a time towards the end when we started going a little away from that, because it sort of felt but it was all clumsy. It was the diatribe of a crazy drunk ass motherfucker who was getting high and didn't know jack shit and about or care about anything but him, and it made but our rock and roll, our music was, we didn't skimp on that for the sake of show or the sake of being offensive or the sake of acting like we didn't give a fuck what people thought. We really, really, really cared about what people thought we were musically, to the point to where we would sit in the chicken shed and drill songs, and
well, and that shows, because there's a propulsiveness to it, and again, you can be there's plenty of bands that are like wild offensive or whatever, and the music sucks and nobody cares, and they shouldn't.
I know, and I felt that's just a waste of that's and I'm we weren't bringing a message, but I feel like it's a waste of
right.
What are you trying to say? What were we trying to say? We were trying to say rock and roll is a dirty, ugly.
It's messy. It's
Yes,
not.
and
It's
it can be gross. I mean,
it's
you know,
marrying your cousin and shooting off guns where they shouldn't be shut off, and all this
pooping in jars like
inappropriate
Little
behavior.
Richard did apparently.
Sure, why not? Yeah,
and,
let's go wild.
You know, and it was also androgynous. It was also pansexual, and
Yeah, I don't give a damn what you're up to. Doesn't bother me.
yeah.
Can I get in on it?
Yeah, and even then, back then in the day, like Little Richard, it was scandalous if he would have said he was gay. It would have been like, oh my God, he would have been ostracized. But anyway,
did you see that documentary that came out?
No,
I Am Everything. I keep forgetting it. First of all, it exists, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should watch that.
I didn't. I read his. I read a biography of his years ago, and
what a fascinating dude, man. Seriously,
yeah, that dude's crazy. I mean, talk about the essence of rock and roll, just instilled in one person. The person bringing, and it's so funny that it came from. If I remember correctly, it came from the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dramatic energy of religion.
Fantastic. The first queer icon,
Yeah, religious fanaticism. Woo!
Yeah,
yes. Exactly. Handling snakes.
Yeah, it comes out in this and just defines this genre, and like a generational aspect of rebellion out of these completely unreproducible events.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like my rock and roll dangerous. I like my rock and roll with Iggy Pop.
Sure.
And during I like Kiss. The Flames and the Satanism.
Look, there's at least 12 rock solid amazing Kiss songs, and people are being really reductive if you can. Now, unfortunately, they made 70, but but those 10 or 12. Pretty freaking great, man. And even when they're not great, it's still look, you're gonna be mad at this. It's a big, ridiculous, ostentatious show. Are you mad at
yeah,
the Blue Man Group? I don't know. I can't even think of
the Blue Man Group. Yeah, it is. It's that. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I feel
sure.
Where do they fit into that canon? Where do they go? Are they meta a little bit because they know they're joking themselves, or no, they don't? I think they're serious and they think, and so, but what the makeup and
maybe both at the same time. Who knows?
Yeah, it's all confusing, which I love about my rock and roll. I love my rock and roll to be confusing. And let's say here's a good example. I'm sure you're familiar with Eagles of Death Metal.
Of course, yeah. My friend Dave Ketching actually played in the live band for a number of years, including at the horrible thing at the Bataclan that happened. That horrific event with all the people getting killed.
So that's just inhumane and awful.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off task with whatever.
No. I want to come out with and let everybody know that I was that band love their music. Oh my God, just I think it's fun. It's
it does the exact thing it set out to do, right?
Yes, it's fun, it's funny, and I like it. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. But man, I can tell you that I wouldn't last 5 minutes in a room with any of those band members because it sounds like we have the totally different view of where things are today as societal things are today. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too specific here, but
Jesse especially. The rest of them are
yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna be real careful about what I say here. But Jesse's he has his own. It's funny. He comes from a somewhat religious background as well, which is hilarious. But he definitely is he's a unique character, and I'd rather talk rock and roll than talk politics with him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it, because he's. I mean, I think he's one of those people that is like a man out of time, right? Where it's like, oh wow, yeah, if you'd been doing this in the 70s or something.
Yeah, no doubt. And and that's when I have to go okay, take a look at the how I like to do rock and roll is to offend to just bring chaos into the building.
Yeah.
And tear shit up for the sake of tearing shit up. And then, you know, also having this, listening to this band and going, I really like this band, but boy, their views are really kind of not cool to me whatsoever. So what do? Do I still like their music?
Right.
Well, I can't help it, but yes, I still like the damn music. And it becomes
It's not like it's Screwdriver. It's just like some knucklehead stuff. I mean, Jesus, dude.
but it starts to make. I never felt that. So I think it's just an interesting thing of how.
Right. Where's the line? Where's the comfort level of art versus artist? Where somebody, again, people that are objectively not great human beings. You know.
Yeah.
At
exactly.
what point? Why do I still adore James Brown even though he literally beat women? You know, John Lennon, same thing, you know, where it's like, well, I fucking love these guys, but like, yeah, as dudes, not great, as it turns out, not great.
Yeah, and you could also, you know, you could make a case of like, I don't want to hear any of their, I don't want to have anything to do with their art because they're assholes. And sure. I'm sure that same thing happened to us, whether it was deserved or not, because who knows what mode we were in. Were we being genuine? Who knows? We were just not trustworthy.
That was the problem with the commitment to the bit, right? I mean, Andy Kaufman.
Exactly. That's a really great way to put it, you know. And I always like to leave the bit on stage and not have it seep into the dressing room or merch or, you know, whatever afterwards. But sometimes that line really it started to get blurred. Are you Rick Didjit now? That guy on stage who's saying all that stupid shit? And then a lot of times it'd be like, "Oh my God, you're actually a nice guy.
Yeah, you're a nice fella.
I can't believe that. Well, what? You're not an asshole."
Well, and then there's the other side of it too, which is like the Alice Cooper side, right? Where it's, well, Alice is a character, and I'm doing this character, and I'm the dude that golfs and, you know, votes Republican and
for sure,
and then whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, and there's a whole kind of cottage industry of like that kind of person too, where it's like. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's never going to make me mad at like Love It to Death or like $1 Billion Babies or Killer. I'm going to listen to those records for forever because they're fantastic, you know? And you can't argue with the fact that like Alice Cooper literally was hanging out with like Groucho Marx and all the people from like the Algonquin Round Table. And they were like, game recognized game. You're doing the thing that's like the next iteration of what we were doing, you know? But do you have to be that guy all the time? Probably not. It sounds exhausting, right?
Yeah, it is, you know, ultimately a performance. It sort of rock and roll at some point started drifting, and this is my point of view. I don't claim to be some rock and roll fucking historian. I'm just saying it seems to me like at some point it became less about like, let's play politely on stage into this like performance art thing. And then once it became a little bit of a performance art thing, then people, of course, in rock and roll just ran with it. And, you know, it became insanity. And I don't know. And I for some reason, I'm drawn to that. And I think that a lot of that, you know, became a part of the music. In for better or worse,
because it's dangerous. There's an element of danger to it, even if it's just like, hey, we're going to like wrestling style, like we're going to engage with the fact that this is a dangerous environment until it stops, and then it's not a dangerous environment anymore at all. And I say that as someone, I'm not even a big wrestling guy, but like I get what people get out of it, you know, like I understand that like, no, it's like a horror movie. You get to feel like, oh, my life might be in jeopardy to a certain degree, but I'm watching a movie, so it's not. You know.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely we're there to provoke. I mean, when the Dead Kennedys out, and they had a very strict. I feel like they had a very strict, you know, moral or political comfort. But they still, when it still came out, and they took that on, even though it was very, I don't know, righteous. It still felt kind of dangerous at the time, even though what they you know. Holiday in Cambodia. What is it? But they're talking really good.
You didn't even know who Pol Pot is, but you're like, this sounds important.
Yeah, and you know they coming from that more virtuous. I don't know if virtuous is the word, but those leftists and sort of
kind of righteously indignant.
Yeah, right? yeah. Exactly. Even that felt dangerous, and which I loved, and Anyway,
I was
this is
listening
all
to your
to
cover
say-
of Police Truck earlier today, actually.
Oh, really?
On the Virus 100. That's what it was, Virus 100, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny because I also I talked to John Wright from No Means No not that long ago, and was talking about how I love their a cappella rendering of Forward to Death. I was like, even when I worked at a record store when that came out, I was like, that's fucking awesome. Because it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, it's like, all right, it's No Means No Blame Dead Kennedy song, right? Okay, but they're like, oh, they did like a cappella, and then Jello was like, well, are you making fun of us? And it's like, no, come on, dude, come on. Jesus H. Christ, Jello.
And once you're that big of a profile, you
Yeah.
if people make fun of you, you just got to accept that and roll with
You're
it.
like one of the great rock and roll personalities. Like, let them. First of all, they weren't, but even if they were, like, great.
Yeah,
you know,
he's certainly ripe for ridicule because he's such an iconic figure. You know,
and he's very earnest in what he does, which I appreciate and admire. But I also see where people kind of want to boink, 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 boink at him too.
Oh, of course, without a doubt. You know, probably a lot of that comes from his politics of being, self-righteous. I know what's right, and I know I'm constantly like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is government's wrong. And he plotted a very specific course. Of course, people are going to be like you said, poking at him. But okay, so this whole conversation, what am I trying to say?
Right. Yeah. So the big, like the monster voice, the big like rock and roll persona versus the audience, that whole confrontation as engagement, but also with a meta-contextual reference towards everything that had come before.
Yes.
The Didjits persona, if you will.
Which is a way for me to try to explain that we were very offensive at times. Yeah.
I guess we could have just said that, right? Yeah.
And in today's climate, we are mega offensive, but our music was made to adrenalize. It was like, it's kind of, constant addiction to adrenaline. And although we had some, like you think about Skull Baby, Mama Had a Skull Baby.
One of my favorites.
That wasn't necessarily adrenaline. I think it had a lot of like crazy weirdness and
I think I asked you in a direct message, maybe one of the influence of alcohol at one point, like many moons ago, what was that about? And you were like, I have no idea. And I was like,
well,
fair.
It made sense in a little bit of a story way of like this person dug up a skull and they carried it around with, I guess I grew. That's another one of these things of the kind of stories you hear, these urban legend or the things you hear about weird people doing weird things.
Hammer horror style. Like, here's the conceit. You got a skull and it screams. But
I found this. It could be like a little dog skull, cat skull.
The bitch is called Screaming Skull, kid. What do you expect?
I'm going to keep it. And I'm going to shine it up. I'm going to get it cleaned up and I'm going to take it with me everywhere. It's like, what the fuck?
What are you doing? What's happening?
But that's what I kind of grew up with. And I think there's probably, not everybody grew up, I feel like, around the crazy person. There's a song called Wingtips on Fizz Job.
Yeah.
And it was about a guy and, God bless him. I'm not making wasn't anything we're making fun of. It was like more of just like an astonishment of how this could happen and of like how people can be so evil and be so just like stupid and cruel. And, it was about this guy who killed and murdered a woman because he was in their house and he got caught, jacking off on shoes. And I think that's, it's a crazy story, but the last thing we're doing is laughing at the person that got murdered. It was awful,
Yeah.
But to think something that bizarre could happen 5 blocks from my house, and that's what we are. That's who we are. I hate to say it. We are not really. Our society is not sane. I feel like we are insane, and I don't know, we luckily, through fate dodged the worst of it. I don't know. But those are the sorts of things that sort of like spoke to me at the time.
Yeah, why haven't we flown to Mars? Well, we're too busy with this other stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's a lot of that was like the bands that I enjoyed at the time too, which like the Butthole Surfers. It's like I'm 23 going on 24 or 20. I can't remember the age, but
whatever, the numbers aren't important.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like the person I lived with in Decatur, who was like not bright and was holding a place in society, and I had to interact with him. And I'm not trying to. I'm not saying I'm not an idiot. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, how do we navigate? How do I navigate Decatur, fucking Illinois, where it was like racist, homophobic, sexist, awful place to grow up. My parents, sexist, racist, homophobic, all this stuff. I'm growing up in this, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I've got a lot of lyrical fodder here if I really wanted to pursue that, since we've got enough love songs, right? We've got enough love songs.
Really, I mean, there's people that are very good at it. Good on them, but there's other stuff to write about.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that whole vibe came from like Scratch Acid with me. It came from the Butthole Surfers, Big Black, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I was drawn more to the absurd than I was the political, for sure. And
right. As a jumping off point for creativity of like, hey, how crazy is it this happened, and like, let's make an allegory out of this that we can,
absolutely.
It's not going to be like anything else.
I wish I was smart enough to actually put it to say it was. That was ways back then, but I was more like, let's get a six pack and fuck shit up, and watch people watch people's jaws drop, and that'll be great. And their jaws will drop because we're delivering really good live show, and because, oh my God, that dude is such an asshole. What is up with that? And then it just it became a whole, like I said, performance art. It became a whole thing other than just showing up and playing music. It became this big comment on what is rock and roll, what is punk rock, what is rock music, and everybody just left confused, and thank God they left confused. Well, about us anyway.
Like in the moment, that has a certain feeling, and that has a certain kind of aspect to it. But like ultimately, if you're talking about art that is meant to excite and challenge, look, there's worse reactions to have. If people are like, what was going on there? Like, what was like they're not going away being like, well, that was nothing. I saw nothing and nothing happened.
Yeah, we saw guys play their music and leave.
Which I've been at shows and played shows where that's happened, where I'm like, well, what do they sound like? I don't know, nothing.
Yeah, and I think
they were really nice.
Yeah, I think I think our. I mean, you go see Sonic Youth, I feel like you could do that. I feel like there was something just musically where they just come out and do their thing, and it'd be enough. And I don't know if it was a feeling of like why I felt like I had to bring something else to the table that was more dangerous, and that way I felt had to be more like Little Rich or or Iggy Pop or blah 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 blah. But I just didn't feel like. I felt like our medium of bringing back rock and roll wasn't enough to, and maybe it was just insecurity. It wasn't just enough, or what? And it also just wasn't fun just to play on stage and not react, have interaction with the audience. That was dangerous. But for your Sonic Youth, you could definitely show up, play your shit, and people go like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, exactly. What just were those guitars? What were those noises?
Yeah,
it's pretty catchy considering,
Yeah, and I think the Butthole Surfers too, although they put on like some crazy
freaking strobe lights and like vasectomy videos and stuff. Like, what is? Wow, I was like, I remember definitely first time I saw Butthole Surfers, I'm like, this is dangerous. Whatever's happening here, I am in danger right now, and I'm not against it, but I'm going to keep a respectful distance.
Yeah,
which is why it's funny. Like, I meet Jeff Pincus, and it was like, was like, oh, it's Uncle Meth. Here we go. And I'm like, oh, he's like the nicest guy ever. Never mind. He's like a total sweetheart, as it turns out. He's like, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I thought you were going to be a completely different kind of guy. But okay.
Well, I think I don't know. I also felt like as an artist, as a rock and roller, it was kind of my duty to bring the danger, because I feel like that's what you rely on the artist to do in a lot of ways, is to go places you don't want to go. Sure. And to feel the danger, but not actually create the danger, and leave that up to the butthole surfers. You know, exactly. I can buy a ticket, pay, go see it, and I can leave. And okay, I lived. That was exhilarating because I escaped danger, and they can go be dangerous town after town after town. Right. I don't have to worry about it. That's why they're artists and I'm in the audience, I guess. I don't know. It's all,
but it's not one size fits all, right? Like, not everyone should try to do like a butthole surfers. Like, I mean, one of the reasons why it works is, like, I mean, they're largely very intelligent, creative people, but like genuine freaks too. Yes. You know, like, it's a good thing they had that as a mode of expression, because who knows what they would have gotten up to otherwise. You know?
Oh my God, serial killers in Texas.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know, that's it, when I think back to what I was doing back in early 90s, late 80s, you know, the message or the lack of message that I was, or what I was trying to achieve back then, or the lack of trying to achieve anything, and just it's amazing how that's not what I would do today.
Right. Well, because you were doing the thing for the time. And
I was a young, kind of young and stupid in a lot of ways.
Nobody's going to be able to tell you anything, right?
Yeah. And now I'm older, and I feel like, oh, there was a little bit of realization of like, I don't know. I just have different, you know, people grow up or whatever you want to fucking say, what to call it, or life's experiences have a way of, and I don't mean to be philosophical. It's like, but life has a way of, life took me in a different direction and it's like, I wouldn't be that. I wouldn't do that today. And not because I necessarily think it's wrong, but I just feel like, I got bigger fish to fry intellectually, quote unquote, intellectually. There's nothing intellectually about rock and roll that I enjoy, but anyway,
I mean, look, Devo, you know, there's plenty of, like, you know, you can do it. Is this that usually?
Yeah, man.
There has to be some limbic system to it, or it's not going to work.
Absolutely. Those dudes. Oh my God. I feel like we're just talking about other bands, but
we are. We should maybe talk about Didjits at some point.
That was a band. That band was a huge influence.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I feel like there was another band who was like, we are serious, but we're not.
Yeah,
and you don't really know.
Yeah, you're gonna be
which one we are.
Are these guys for real? Are they? Do they know? Do they know if they're for real?
Yeah, exactly.
What is actually happening here?
Yeah, but they also had a lot of kickbacks to old rock and roll.
Of course, yeah.
Or even 70s cliche rock and roll tropes.
Yeah.
In some of their music, like their guitar solos and how they sang at times. They didn't come out going like, we are a punk rock band and we are going to be punk.
No.
I think they, you know, and there was just an originality that, and I keep saying that because, you know, I'm jealous of those guys that they can pull off this really deep intellectual sort of thing, and it comes across not intellectual, it comes across very populist, yeah. And very, very cool. And I don't know, I just, they were a huge influence, and
I can see it. I mean, like, I think Devo is a huge influence in a lot of ways beyond just the musical, right? I mean, like, I've major Devo influence, but a lot of that was like, oh wow, look at Like that there's no rules for how you can approach something.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that you can have this like super intense, like crazy music and like you can do whatever you want with it. You
Yeah.
can just, like, oh, this needs to change at this point and go to the chorus. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just gonna go for a while, and then there's gonna be like, this guy's singing, now this guy's singing, this guy's singing, and it's gonna like go in a round robin rotation, and like, oh my god, it hurts my brain to think about it, but fantastic, like you look at the results and it's like, this just sounds awesome. There's what are you gonna do?
No doubt, love it. And they were from the Midwest too, which I think there's just something about regionally where you're from that you have a connection, or I shouldn't say you. There's something about regionally.
I'm from Oakland, but I grew up in a town called Modesto in the Central Valley, which has way more in common with Kansas than it does with Los Angeles or San Francisco. Let's put it that way. Like casual intolerance and homophobia and racism.
Oh, boy.
Like I was rejected like a virus from that town. That's why I don't claim it.
Mm-hmm.
But like that said, like henceforth my sensibility, which again aligns with a lot of the Midwest stuff of like, oh, we're just gonna have to like do whatever we're gonna do, and let's just make this as cool as we can because there ain't no one coming to save you, man.
Yeah, I'm right. But I also feel musically that when I listen to the MC5 and even fuckhead Ted Nugent, Alice Cooper, Devo, and even as far as Devo got, I could still tell they were drinking the same water as all those other bands, and if I don't know if it was chord progressions, if it was style or what it was exactly, but I don't know, there was something that drew me in that was genuine about their music on top of the plastic wigs and stuff like that, which is sort of what I think. I'm just now realizing that I think I stole my whole thing from Devo.
But you wouldn't be the first, and at least it's oblique,
people aren't sure what really, you're keeping them guessing.
Yeah, right.
You are staying true to your rock roots.
Allegorical concepts within songwriting that are maybe on the more esoteric side sometimes, but don't come across that way. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and also taking risks, songwriting. Like I don't know exactly what I'm doing here, but hey, I don't care. And also this sense of just I already said that Midwesternness that speaks to me regionally. I don't know. I feel like all the bands from London, UK, there's always something about all those bands that are, whether they're Joy Division or whether they're the Bay City fucking Rollers. There's something that you can tell they're all drinking from the same water. And
there's something that's tied together. Like Flipper and Dead Kennedy musically don't sound that much alike, but you can tell they're both Bay Area somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no shit. Yeah. What is that? I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, if everybody's kind of living in the same tree and drinking the same songs, or I don't know. I just found it really cool and fascinating.
Why don't we talk about your your best of Rarities double LP RSD exclusive?
I feel like since we're on visual, I should have brought the record, but
Strictly Dynamite. I can throw it on the screen share. Let me do that while you're here.
You can do that.
How did you put all this together? Like, how do you decide what goes on there? Right? Like,
first of all, we knew right off the bat that there was no way we couldn't put certain songs on it, or there would be rebellion and
insurrectionists.
Yes, insurrection. And so there was a good 10 or 15 that were just laid out for us, and we knew. But the trouble came down to those. Okay, we've got 15 tracks. We need 19. So those last 4. Oh my God. Which ones are they going to be?
What are those going to be? Because there's only so much space right here.
So much space, and we also have
the record cover up there.
We had 2 drummers, so it's like, well, we got to make sure, Todd's represented. So Kaser Hanserheim, we got to get something off that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, saw us. I think people when we started creating more of an audience, and our first big record was Hey Judester. So I think people are drawn to that. So a lot of their favorite songs are on that. We had to go like, okay, we can't just put Hey Judester on here. We've got to branch out from that and you know, be clever about it. And so, you know, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of going back and forth on that. And
what's happening here? Touch and Go, fix your website. What's happening? I can't scroll down. What are they doing over there?
Well, you know, they're from the 90s. So
website, internet's a fad, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, that's just selling out a website.
Exactly. Well, all right. Anyway, we can list the first 24. I don't know why it's you know,
but anyway, that's all I can. But I put some, you know, I put some on Facebook. Was like, hey, what's your favorite Digit songs? And you know, of course, it was some help, but sometimes the people would be going like, oh, you should put this song on. I'd be like, there's no fucking way I'm putting that on.
Here's this obscure
like
B-side.
deep track. So that just what do you call it? Verified that we were right about basically the ones we thought were dead ringers, you know. And then there's the rarities, which were, like I said, we put out 3 tapes. Or in the early,
was that Pastorius is the name of the what is it?
Yeah, that's the second name of the second disc. The Bring Me the Head of Jaco Pastorius.
Jaco Pastorius, which is great, and that's all like 4 tracks and like weird unreleased job stuff, right?
Yeah, early '80s stuff we did in Sullivan before we had ever tried to put out. It was all the stuff pre-Fizz Job. Mm-hmm. Where we were trying to,
I guess it literally says it on the screen. And I could just read that, but whatever. I'm not a big reading guy apparently. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I could tell, but no.
I didn't want to say anything, but it was pretty apparent. I'm more of a books on tape guy. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, man, that stuff is a lot of that stuff is bizarre. There was a time when we were going from there was the bad Digits. There was the good Digits, and then there was the really not good Digits, and then the Digits that started to, you know, form the beginning of the good Digits again, or the what you would traditionally know the Digits to be, me and Doug and Brad.
So are you talking about as far as like skill level or like D&D alignment? What are you talking about?
Songwriting,
okay,
song style.
Sure.
You know, I mean, for fuck's sake, we had. There's a song called Adolescent Hormones where my cousin Mike was in the band and he played synthesizer and trumpet on that cut. And I have no idea what we were doing, what style we were going for. So I can't even tell you. There's no reference. It isn't like, oh, you could tell they were that they were a real Ramones fan at that time. No, that song is just like sits alone in its own canon by itself. Is like, what the fuck is this? But it's kind of good. It's you know, it's good. It's what do you call it? A bauble, a conversation piece where you can look at it and you can go like, oh wow, what the fuck? And this is one where we recorded in the legendary Chicken Shed when we didn't really know how to record very well and we didn't have any money, and so there's a few of those tracks are on it.
Right, and it's like a weird little cul-de-sac that never really. You know, canonically was like, oh, that's weird that happened.
Yeah, it's kind of it was kind of like that, and then the band blew up, and then we went and me and Doug played in UXB, where there's a bunch of tracks from UXB on there too, which you could tell that we were sort of becoming. We were like, okay, we love the Plasmatics, and that was sort of like the Plasmatics, and then we after that all blew up, we got me and my brother and Doug got together again, and then we started putting out those 3 tapes, which, you know, all from those tapes there's some unreleased tracks from those tapes that some of those made up Fizz Job, but some of them didn't, and some of those are on the rarities, like Melvin Takes a Dive. That was on our video. We made a video about that on Super 8 at the Chicken Shed and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, you know, that made it on the tapes, but it never made it on Fizz Job, never made it out of that tape world where we became more discerning about what songs were really worthy or what we were doing that was really
because you don't know at first, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's the thing that, especially when folks are starting off creatively, you maybe have an idea of what it should be academically. Like you have this construct in your head, but like as far as the actual doing of it, first of all, it may not be what you thought it was in the first place, and secondly, the way it comes out may not be the way that you originally expected, and like what you choose to do with that is your own choice creatively.
Yeah, you know, it is weird, and I think back to that where I was like, "Oh, I'm going to make the most original music ever. The world is their minds are going to be blown."
Right, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and then oh wow, I've got 3 chord, I got a guitar, and maybe I just didn't, you know, and then I chose the thing that spoke to me the most was the most, you know, roots of the genre, that to where I became more called to that, or more beholden to that than say Sonic Youth, which wasn't beholden to jack shit, and they bought whole servers, and so
but they were pushing boundaries in a different way, and what you're doing was, and I feel like now there's more of a popular lexicon for re-examination of previous genres and certainly celebrity, but I like the idea of, let's find what's good about this and really drill into that, just to remind you how much everything sounds like truck commercial music now that is operating.
Yeah, no shit. Oh my god, that gives me some bad memories about living in Sullivan, Illinois. That's for damn sure. As I'm sure Modesto probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my man, I got usually my favorite is shirtless dudes in the back of a truck yelling a slur to me coming out of a movie theater.
Yeah.
Next to a girl that I've been on a date with. I'm like, you're shirtless dudes in the back of a truck yelling at me? I'm on a date with the girl.
Yeah, and
you can only imagine what they were yelling, and you would be correct.
It's easy to figure out, but yeah, why? Because your hair was a certain way?
Yeah, exactly, because I look different.
Yeah, we think about it like us, and we think about these people that are, switching genders or
exactly. As rough as I had it, and to be clear, compared to like a trans person, like I did not have it rough. To be explicitly clear, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that mindset, that small-minded sort of
absolutely
them, just meanness for the sake of meanness.
Yeah, idiots.
Yeah,
fucking stone cold morons with no intellectual curiosity whatsoever. Other than finishing off the 6-pack. And don't get me wrong, I finished off a lot of fucking 6-packs. I love beer. I loved beer.
I mean, there's a certain poetry to it, right? Ask Bukowski.
But yeah, I found I had to get away from that, man. I had to get away from that, and sadly, I took a little. I don't know if I didn't really take anything with me like that, but I sort of. Too deep. I'm going too deep, man.
It's fine.
Throw me a line. Throw me a line.
Well, why don't so looking back at, again, getting like anytime you have a release like this, like a record store day release, like sort of like this is for the true heads, and also like it has to be an introduction for people that maybe don't know the band or like heard the name but never checked it out. But then also you got to give something to like the true heads, right? So then like all these UXB things of it seems like that's a cool way of like, hey, you never heard this before,
No.
Like and there's like a fix some food. There's like a different version, right? That's like
that's a live version. I mean, yeah.
And so like finding that middle ground between giving the people what they want, but also being like. It's almost like a resume or something, like
they're going to get the best of, and the best of is going to that takes care of the people that are coming in first, and I feel like the rarities and the baubles that you get inside, like all these old posters, pictures of me and in the band before I was wearing my my getup, before I became the person you see in all the pictures, and posters of us playing Ted's Warehouse, which was like when we were playing cover tunes to fill up 4 sets and thinking that
Right.
was some way to go, which was fucking ridiculous. And so you get all that stuff if you're the casual fan, and and another silly letter inside. Because in Horn of Pinata we had the Ted Nugent letter, and in Hey Juicer we had the Ann Landers letter, and this has got a letter inside of it. So if you're a fan, that's sort of is like, oh, it's another letter, or that letter thing that they do. So there's a lot of things that will, the fan that's been around for a long time will recognize and be able to have something new to be excited about. Because obviously if it was just the songs, that's as an introductory thing, like you said, then that wouldn't necessarily be as fun. This is sort of an anthology, if you will, not just an anthology of our music in a way. Also, if you look at all the stuff inside the inserts and the sleeve and everything, it's also an anthology of our whole,
the whole thing, the whole like the whole darn thing, right? Yeah, and that's something that it's nice to see, and it's sort of like that's something that actually is kind of received well now in this this era of instant availability of everything, where it's like, oh no, it's kind of nice to have a guidepost. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew, you knew, and great, but let's assume that not everybody knew.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's all of that stuff is a lot of it that's for posterity. And it's sort of like the idea behind the whole thing anyway. Let's don't lose sight of all this stuff. Let's don't let this fall away. The records, touch and go records, there's vinyl. Where are you going to find the vinyl? Yada yada. So let's make sure this is everybody gets the whole thing. Everybody sees the genesis and the, not necessarily the explosion of the band, which did happen, but the end,
How do you settle on the sunglasses?
Let me see. I had a girlfriend who had sunglasses, and I put them on for a show, and I kept them after that, and I don't know why. Well, I know why. What do you call it? Emotionally, because it was like, look, I'm regular Rick, but when I put on these sunglasses, whoa, I'm this crazy motherfucker. I don't know what the hell. And it took me to this different place, and so did the suits when they came around. It's sort of like, it automatically started transforming me into something else on stage, and it sort of sounds like a crutch, right? Like I could hide behind, and I could like mask and go out there and do my thing, and not worry about the consequences. I hate to say it like that, but not worry about like how
there's a dividing line. There's a dividing line between the personas.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. It also helped me too, because I would play like this and sing, and I could just look down at my guitar.
Just make sure you're hitting the right notes.
Yeah, so people wouldn't see me singing like this and playing like this. I could look like I was looking straight out, but
it looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool. It looks good.
Yeah.
And it gave me a little bit of fake courage to get out there and be a crazy motherfucker.
Right. Sure. No, nothing wrong with that. I mean,
at least I didn't put on fucking makeup, a whole face full of makeup.
Right.
Come on.
I don't remember. It's been too long since we talked last. But I did have a Russell Simmons on recently from Blues Explosion and from the great band Service as well, who a good friend. And we talked about the Just Fred record.
Oh.
There. And I think we might have talked about this last time, but it happened so goddamn long ago. I don't even remember if we talked about it or not. But I will say, and I'm not sure if take of this what you will, I'm a completely self-taught guitarist. I didn't actually learn guitar by playing the records. I just kind of developed my own lexicon and my own language, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially with like guitar solos. But of the 3 guitar solos I ever learned from other bands, Highway Star by Deep Purple and Bulldozer off the Just Fred record.
Oh my god.
And there's a third one too, but I don't remember what it was. And I've probably forgotten all of them by now because there's not a lot of reason
Well, I have
to play them.
certainly forgotten that by now. I haven't heard that fucking song. It's been a long time.
Still goes, by the way.
Now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to go back and listen. What was he talking about? Oh,
yeah. It's a good solo. It's a good solo.
I remember that. How I came up with that. Oh yeah, it was this.
There's a little Brian May kind of like part in it too. It's good. But I think that the story of that record is fascinating. There's a lot of new listeners and viewers to the show that probably aren't even aware that episode exists. I mean, I think that was episode 99, and this is episode 384. Right, so take of that what you will. And by the way, anything that didn't happen last week is like ancient history, apparently. But
yeah, now I'm 384 years old, so it's like,
yeah, it's quite the coincidence, really.
But bro,
so I know largely it was Steve Albini's doing of putting that together because Fred wanted to record with Steve Albini.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just tell the story of how that crazy record, which by the way I think is one of like the secret like awesome records of the 90s.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I like that. It was so strange. I mean, I don't know as far as like in the world of strange things how strange it was, but to me it was strange. In that there was this guy in Los Angeles who apparently had all these songs for Fred that Fred wanted to record. And so we were called into the studio, like who was it? Six Finger Satellite. Yeah. They were called in to do a certain amount with him, and then
Shadowy Man on a Shadowy Planet, I think, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, was it Shadowy Man?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but anyway, another band was called, and then there was a band of all stars that Steve put together. And it was me, a guy from his name's Chris, and I can't remember what band he was in. Bass player for Tar, Tom.
Tom from Tar. I think it was Chris from Dis, maybe.
Boy, I can't remember.
Ooh,
but you know what?
People getting mad at me.
We toured with that guy. We toured with Chris, but we actually recorded with Russell Simmons, who was the Blues Explosion drummer.
Yeah.
And so we did these songs. We listened to the tape, and there's the chords, and then we'd go in and we would come up with this version. And what do you think, Fred? Yeah, well, and he didn't have a whole lot to say about it. Really, he was like, okay, I'm going to start singing now, and so he would start singing,
right?
And it all just kind of came together, because us guys in the band were just like, what are we going to do with this chord progression that we got on cassette tape here that some guy just put down, and we can't really do a whole lot with it because Fred, expects it to represent the tape, but at the same time we've got to interpret it. So
you got to be true to the people playing the music too, which is I mean, God, Russell's such a great drummer. Like Tom's a great bass player. I mean, everybody's like great at what they're doing, but this is kind of like a fish out of water situation.
Everybody's going to play like they play, like they do when they show up to play, like how Russell plays in the Blues Explosion, or the vibe that Tom brings to Tar, and I'm going to bring my Didjits vibe, and so that's how it all played out in the studio. And then we toured with Fred for a while, and that was a very time of his life where maybe he was always like this, but he certainly was not the parties gone out of bounds guy when we were on tour. And he was very kind of like very domestic.
He's there to do the work, but sort of like not interested in being.
Yeah, he just wants to go to his hotel room afterwards, take it easy, eat some nice food, and so that was kind of like what it was like touring with him. We went to Belgium, and then it was like, I don't know, things got crazy. We did a couple of those videos, and so we played, and that was really fun. And we were playing in London at the Garage which is garage for all you Americans.
Sure,
maybe you've been there. I don't know, but yeah, I can't tell you how many times. Oh, you're playing the garage? I gotta be like, what the fuck are you saying?
What? I'm sorry. Again, say it again.
So we played the garage, and John McEnroe shows up. He's gonna play guitar on a song. He wants me to teach him "Monster in Your Pants" or something. I think that's the way it was. There's a monster in my pants.
Yeah, and it does a little dance. But yeah.
I spent the fucking evening teaching John McEnroe how to play. Just in the dressing room before the show. Yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, yeah, that's the chord. That's good. Oh, cool. Yeah, okay, great. So here I am having talking with John McEnroe, learning how to play this song.
It's very surreal. Yeah.
Yeah, with Fred, there was a lot of meeting. A lot of me living vicariously through his celebrity. Like I had dinner with Yoko Ono and Sean Lennon because they knew Fred, and I would go over there and we'd practice, and then we'd go out to dinner with them, and then of course I meet the Big 52s, and that was a very fun time of my rock career, being able to meet all these these stars, people that I grew up idolizing.
Yeah.
Not
B-52s were trailblazers, right?
They were a huge influence on the Didjits. They were.
And you hear a song like Rock Lobster, where it's like, wow, no part repeats in this, and it just keeps going. Like it just keeps getting weirder and weirder as time goes on. And this was somehow a hit. Like somehow, the freaks were let in that it was a hit.
Yeah, that was weird because that did not seem to hit the. It did not seem to be the formula that you would think a hit would take.
There's no reason, objectively, from an analytical standpoint, that song shouldn't even work, let alone be popular. But it's amazing.
Yeah, sadly, I think it worked because lunkheads, college people. No, I don't want to say that.
The novelty value of it or something.
It's like, I'm the only true person that gets Rock Lobster. Everybody else doesn't understand the true artistic significance.
They don't know. It's like the meme, like when they don't know. There's like the dude in the corner, and everyone's around and dancing at the show. They don't know that I know the true meaning of Rock Lobster.
Oh man, I pride myself on being full of shit. Sometimes, I think it just makes things, I don't know, much funner.
But I think that's such a crazy. The Just Fred record is so weird. Because at the time you have to understand, I knew who all you guys were. I worked at a record store, and I knew who Six Finger Satellite was. I knew who Shadowy Man and Shadowy Planet was, and I was like, wait, what? It's like it didn't compute. I'm like, what? What is this?
Right? Yeah, I think that was his moment of I want to catch up on the stuff that's new on the ground. Yet
still have playing the lime of the coconut.
Yeah, right.
As well, sure. Why not? Yeah. Let's go crazy.
He wanted to work with Steve Albini, who had just produced the Nirvana record.
Yeah.
He wanted to, obviously those other guys. Well, I'm not sure how the band. I don't think he said, I want to play with Rick and I want to play with him because of Didjits. So that was all Steve's doing, but
yeah,
I think that was his way of becoming, not chasing relevancy, because he didn't need to do that. I'm just saying that he wanted to kind of catch up on what was going on.
Do something different, do something more at the time
more sense of urgency of what was brand new instead of the B-52s, which have been around for 15 years,
Can I tell you, I talked to him years ago, and I got him to agree to be on the show, and
oh really?
It just never happened. We scheduled it and it didn't happen, and then it just kind of fell apart. Same thing with Wayne Kramer, actually, which is a major bummer. Yeah, it's one of my great God damn it, that would have been cool if that would have happened. But I had it on the schedule and everything, and I was like, hell yeah, because the first thing I was first thing I'm gonna do is we're talking about just Fred. Sometimes I got it in mind ahead of time. Usually I don't. Usually it's wherever we go is where we go, right? But I was no, we are 100% gonna I want to hear from his perspective. Like, well, I talked to this Albini guy,
Yeah,
you know, like,
there's a lot of stuff. I don't know how that whole thing came about.
how, I don't know. I would love to know that. I mean,
I think there was a lot of him talking to Robert, who was his boyfriend agent, and then Robert taking it from there. So I think a lot of the sausage making was not really known to anybody.
Sure. And like, look, fine. I mean, because he's one of the great, like, mysterious, like, figures of like weird rock and roll to me, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's like look, like the fact that I even got like a spitting distance away from him is amazing. I mean, I'm still blown away. I got James Williamson to the Stooges. It's like, wow, he talked to me.
Man,
Crazy.
Did you get James Williams to do so? Oh God,
It was pretty.
I gotta go listen to it. Tell me what
It was pretty. Look, sometimes it's like I'm just doing the show, and sometimes like, no, I got it. No, I got it on that one.
Yeah, man. Damn.
You can't take that one away.
I don't know.
I got that.
Too starstruck. I'd just be like,
Chris
so-
Farley bit. Oh, you know that thing you did?
Yeah.
It's really cool, man.
I really like the riff.
Remember when you played Raw Power?
Yeah, how did you come up with that riff for Raw Power? That's really good.
I don't think it was that bad. I don't know. I remember it being good.
I'm sure it's great.
I mean, I remember he did give up some tone secrets, which I was like, damn, cool. All right.
Well, I hope, ethically you didn't steal those for yourself.
Right. I wouldn't dare. How dare you?
Stay true to yourself.
You'll be hearing from my lawyers. No, but it's one of the great. So stick with me on this, but I feel like it's almost like with Metallica and Lou Reed, that record they made, where it's like they didn't need to do that. They're Metallica. Like Metallica never needs to make another record ever, and they're still Metallica. But they decided to make a record with Lou Reed because they like Lou Reed. Does some of it sound like Grandpa Simpson walking through a Guitar Center? Yes, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh man!
But they made something bizarre and cool, and they took like an incredible risk creatively to kind of like, let's try something new. Like, good on Fred for however it came to pass that, like, that's like one of the great weird rock records of the 90s that like almost nobody knows about, unless they do. In which we was like, oh yeah, that record's great.
Yeah.
I remember first tour we did a service, I didn't even bring it up to Russell until the end of the tour. I was like, the record you did with Fred Schneider? It's like, yeah, we listen to that in the tour van like all the time, man. It's like, oh, really? Oh, cool,
Oh, that just reminds me. Russell's so cool. He was a really funny, bawdy, and also genuinely nice guy. I really enjoyed working with him. But he was smart enough to not go on tour. Get in and get out.
Yeah. Get.
But yeah, oh gosh, I'm sorry. What I was going to say slipped out of my head.
No, so there was experience of making the record, and there's experience of like being the band. It sounds like being in the band's like, oh, you're not gonna have some big outsized rock and roll experience because Fred just wants to go like watch the Honeymooners in his hotel room or whatever he's up to,
Yeah. At the same time, we flew to Belgium and played festivals, so it was a little bit outside, and all the people we met was definitely an outsized sort of experience. But it's funny because you talk about this, what we were talking about earlier, this who the persona people take on and all this. Was he a persona, or was he really the crazy? I mean, we all think
just a genuine weirdo. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm Fred Schneider, and and he wasn't the part. I'm partying. And we're partying all the time, and it never felt dangerous.
I thought this was a party.
Yeah, he was sort of like, he was a fucking introvert. I swear he was an introvert.
Yeah.
And he brought such a powerful personality to the stage that you thought he was a different person. I thought that he was a different person than what he was off the stage.
Right.
And
that makes sense to me. I mean, like it's sort of, well, you never know. Like some people are like, oh, they're that person all the time, and some people are like, no, I'm just doing the thing, and then I'm gonna go like play Scrabble in my hotel room.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I always felt guilty doing that. I was like, shouldn't I be out like polishing off a bottle of whiskey and getting in a car wreck or something?
Yeah, endangering some
Isn't that what's
lives.
expected of me? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Oh, it's just not authentic unless there's actual danger. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I'm going to, emulate Jerry Lee, I better damn well play.
That gun better be loaded. That's all I got to say. Yeah, I mean, like that's it's weird the expectations that are put on art, especially like rock music, which is just like, wow, it really like, Cameron Crowe's almost famous, pretty much poisoned a couple generations, I think, towards the expectations of rock and roll excess to a certain degree, but it didn't have that far to go.
Yeah.
So it's what it is.
No doubt, man. It's all the crazy. I like how we got into like, what is rock and roll?
Yeah.
So I feel like we've done our duty.
We've done our due diligence, exactly. Thank you for coming to our masterclass. Tell me about the Gaza Strippers. We talked about that in the past. And I think if I remember correctly, you had done some time, where you'd be like serving a sentence. No, with the Supersuckers, right?
Oh yeah,
as well. So can you tell me like a little bit about that period? Because again, I know we talked about this last time. That was a long time ago. So that basically didn't happen.
Well, the Supersuckers thing was Ron left the band. He was on a hiatus, and I was brought in as there's another crazy story about about like. I was brought in to be, fill in his spot, and that This was the time when Sub Pop was like making huge amounts of money, and the Nirvana thing was taking off, and so they were throwing money like crazy at Supersuckers. So they're flying me out to Seattle for practice, and we'd practice for a few days, then we go play a gig somewhere and make up my airfare, and I'd come back home. And then a couple of weeks later, I go out and do the same thing. And then we made the record. We went down to Austin and made the record with, lo and behold, with Paul Leary, Butthole Surfers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He produced it and went down there and, did that whole thing, lived together. And then we, did some touring afterwards. I think I was just supposed to was this another case of me just supposed to make the record? I ended up foolishly touring or something. I can't remember. Anyway, I was, I was turning my life around. I had stopped drinking, stopped smoking, and it was really bad, bad time to try to do that with the Supersuckers, who are the most drinkingest, smokingest motherfuckers.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I was assuredly thinking it.
They're, Hellraisers do the fucking math. And so I was uncomfortable, and it sort of didn't work out. Sure. But in that time I met, we did some high budget videos, and Linda Blair was in one of our videos.
Oh, yeah.
So I met her and hung out with her for a little bit, and we did some stuff with Willie Nelson, and we played Farm Aid, and Willie Nelson came on for a song in Farm Aid and in Louisville. And so it was another one of those like whirlwind, like, oh, what's going on in the Didjits didn't have that. The Didjits were lucky to have 150 people show up to their show in Milwaukee, kind of thing. But the people that did show up were like, oh my God, this is awesome. But we were,
it was a different scale. It was a different world.
I mean, people loved us, or they just hated us because because we didn't care, and that was our stupidly our goal or something. Anyway, so that whole thing went down, and then I was just like, they were sick of me. They wanted to go to Spain to do some stuff. I was like, I've been touring too much. I need to go home. Mm-hmm. They went to Spain anyway, and then we decided to part ways because they were on a different trajectory than I was.
Right. And
then after that, I started getting the band together with the Gaza Strippers, together with a couple of guys from Indiana who sent me a tape of, their it was like an audition tape. They sent it to me, and I was like, wow, this is really great. And then they show up, and I'm like, okay, let's do something. Oh, that tape's 2 years old. We haven't played for quite a while now.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't know, like a complete. I swear to God, I made so many bad decisions. I was like, okay, well, we'll just practice and get good, and we'll do this thing. And then we did, But boy, it took a while, and it was frustrating. But yeah, that was all cool. But that was when the whole industry was like going from actually selling records or product to
Napster and
yeah. What was that? Napster? Is that much?
yeah.
And shit like that, and it's like, okay, well, you can't really sell records anymore. So the whole thing with Didjits was that we could be, cottage industry and sell small amounts of records, but at the same time tour Europe and make enough money. But that just stopped happening with the Gaza Strippers, where you had to be like a mega million seller to.
You already had to kind of get in on get in and be able to have a profile to be able to do anything, right?
And start to have a social media savvy.
Yeah.
Even way back then. And so I don't know, that whole thing, just kind of blew up because I wanted to kill the guitar player because he's such a gigantic asshole. And that and
but other than that, you liked him, right?
I tried to like him, but anyway, so we put out a few records with Man's Ruin. That was Frank Kozik, is a really well-known modern artist. Like, I don't know how you say graphic artist, and so, but
like one of the like, one of the stars of that that specific style of poster art and album art, and just a real one for sure.
Yeah. And he started his record company and decided he's going to put out records. And he's the one that signed, back Queens of the Stone Age early on.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the Desert Sessions and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so we tried that, and the Gaza Strippers just sort of faded away. We put out a few records and tried our best. And I was, cognizant of I don't want to be the Didjits. And
right.
I don't know. When I think back to it now, it's like I had really put myself in, a kind of a box of like, this is how I want to do it. I don't want to do this, and I definitely want to do this, and I don't want to do it. And that was just stupid. I should have just relaxed and had fun. But whatever. I think a lot of people really like Gaza Strippers, and
yeah. No, I have a cassette of it somewhere.
You
probably in the box with the rest of the cassettes. I had a lot of cassettes. I had cassettes way longer than I probably should have, frankly. But
you're lucky they don't disintegrate by now, man.
I haven't tried. What I don't have is cassette player, so maybe they have.
Oh, thank God!
Don't worry, I'm still hoarding them.
You saved yourself from yourself.
How about Lee Harvey Oswald Band? How about that?
Wow!
Ever heard of those guys?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think there was trying to think of where I fit, where I am with that whole thing. That was another thing that was like so under the radar, so trying to be incognito and succeeding at it. And for the most part,
a true success story by any metric.
True success story of total and utter obscurity.
Yeah,
and I mean that was just downstate Illinois. Some jackass I met in college. I met at Lakeland College and Lakeland Community College in Mattoon. He was into punk. He was from Vandalia, Illinois, and he was also kind of a songwriter. And I was like, oh, I kind of like your songs and stuff. And he was so lazy, and he was he couldn't get anything done. It was like all this waste. I just felt like it was so much wasted talent, dude. Well, just get a band, do something.
Yeah.
You're acting all like you're a fucking rock star. Well, let's make some music. And he was just saying, could not do it. But he was a good songwriter.
Yeah.
And so we're finally like, okay, dude, I know you don't, in so many words, I know you don't possess you don't have the capacity to actually show up and do this. So we're going to do it for you. Just, we'll pick some songs of yours off the tape. We'll put it together and we'll fly you in and you sing them. You sing the songs.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy Dave from Shake It Loose, he played drums. I played the guitar and the bass and did all the background vocals. And also a lot of his songs were like a good chorus and a pretty good verse, but then it needed some fleshing out. Like it needed a middle bridge, it needed an intro, it needed an outro, something to make it a song instead of just a verse and chorus over and over.
Yeah.
And
right.
and, to give it some shape and to make it a song. And so me and him did all that. Me and Dave did all that, put that all together. And then I remember I would go to Milwaukee, as a matter of fact, when he lived in Milwaukee, and I would go up there and we'd work on the songs. Then I'd take the Amtrak back home. And finally we had a full record of stuff, and this was Blasternaut, and we'd have a full record of stuff. And then we'd go into the studio, we'd lay down all the stuff and fly this guy in for like a day or two, maybe. And we wanted to kill him by the time he was. oh, where is my this or that? Or so like pretentious and full of shit. And so luckily we were, but he's on the right. He's the guy you see on the records and everything.
Right.
So on some level, I think he knew what we were doing and what he was okay with going along for the ride.
Right.
But with always keeping this like pretentious thing in his back pocket. He would have never have done jack shit by himself. Now I feel like I'm talking about Yoko Ono or John Lennon or like. But I'm just dishing dirt at this point.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how that whole thing went down. We were just once again not worrying about who got upset and trying to push those boundaries and like doing things like making decisions like with it. We're going to record this entire record on hash. We're going to smoke hash for the entire record.
No possible drawbacks on that. Yeah, no, it's a good idea.
Yeah, and actually doing that,
right,
and actually putting it in the record. This was recorded on hash. And coming up with these like alter egos for, I don't know, man. But like once again, the music won the day, and we were able to play these other games with what is rock and roll and what is real and what are the rules? Fuck the rules. Oh, wait a minute. The rules do exist in rock and roll when it comes to the music. Oh, but after that, it's fair game. Yeah. It's like the Ruddles. We're big Ruddles fans. Oh, wouldn't that be cool? Spinal Tap, whatever. Who doesn't love Spinal Tap and the Ruddles and that whole, alter ego sort of thing. So.
Well, and how was sort of described to me. It was like, imagine, that Ziggy Stardust was evil. It was like, what? Oh, okay. You have my attention, right? And then for the longest time, I heard about the record. I'm like, they called the Lee Harvey Oswald, and then like I saw the photo. It's like the assassination photo with the microphone and all that, and it was like, awesome. Whatever this is, I'm sure I'd like it.
Yes, no doubt. Those were all. That was all born. The Lee Harvey thing was all born from my brother wanting to take a hiatus from Didjits and me going like, I want to rock. Fuck this. You go work at what do you call it? We literally had to tour around his factory job. He had to, and so we couldn't really tour as a band so much in those early Didgits days, which I'm sure affected the popularity. And so he finally had to like this and that. He had to take a hiatus from the band, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, we're going to do something. We're going to put out another cassette and people won't know who it is. And just to keep busy, have fun. And then next thing you know, Corey at Touch and Go gets it. He goes like, is this you? I want to put this out. And I think Dave Sims from the Jesus Lizard heard it. And he's like, Corey, you got to listen to this, man. This is really good. And blah, 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 blah. And so reluctantly, for us, we were a little reluctant because we're like, wow, I guess this is a thing. How are we gonna navigate this? I don't want to be Rick Didjits' project. We don't want it to be Rick Didjits' side project. Okay, you know,
let's come up with a whole fake identity and like let's you know,
you fuck with people. I don't know what it is about me and fucking with people, but I just really
sensing a theme. Yeah.
I mean, Black Sabbath never fucked with people.
Right. They really
you know
don't.
what I mean?
No.
They just did their thing and they were gods.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about me having to fuck with people. I probably docked me a few points with popularity. If I would have just played it more straight,
little more.
I could have sold a few more records.
A little more straightforward. Rick, this has been great, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate having you back. I can't believe it's been 283 episodes since you were on last, but definitely
that's crazy. And you got James Williamson. Damn.
I know. Yeah, I'll send you that episode. It's pretty cool, man. So last thing on the show, it's the only canned question I ever ask people. So you can choose to interpret however you like, but why do you do what you do?
Well, depends on what you're asking. Because I don't play rock and roll anymore. I do play rock and roll. Let me take that back. And I should send you this CD I did. Anyway,
lay it on
how
me.
do I do what I do? I'm a teacher at a high school.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am in the sound designer and composer for theater, and I'm doing the Thanksgiving play down at Steppenwolf right now. Why do I do it? I do what I do because shit just had a way of happening. I played rock and roll, got into theater through this girl I started dating, who's now my wife. And then I started working in theater a lot, and it all just revolves around music. I'm doing what I want to do because I possess the ability to songwrite and people want to hear the songs I make. So lucky me.
There you go. Rick Sims. Thanks so much, man.
All right.
Really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
Take care.
Thanks. See ya.
There he goes. Rick Sims, Didjits, Gaza Strippers, Lee Harvey Oswald Band, Just Fred record, all that stuff. Let's go ahead and, well, here's what we're going to do is we're going to go on one of my favorite Didjit songs because that's just the way it is. It's my show, and you can go pound sand if you don't like it. This is Skull Baby.
Can I take you
There you go. That was Mama Had a Skull Baby by the Didjits off of the Strictly Dynamite.
Can you hear me now?
Double LP Record Store Day exclusive Best of and Rarities. You can get that at your local record stores. You can, go get it. It's great. I love the Didjits. The name of the show is Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. This show airs usually Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, as we enter year 10, streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later everywhere. Protonicversal.com, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. But if you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner, you can pay $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal. This helps support the show and you can get episodes sooner, which is a lot. There's 3 this week. This is the 3rd one this week. I'm crazy for doing this. Crazy, he said. If you like the show, though, and you want to support it in other ways that are not money, feel free to like, subscribe to your platform of choice, share it around the internet. All that helps people discover the show and beats back the almighty algorithm. So it's deeply appreciated.
50,000 watts of power.
Lots of great stuff coming up. Roger Miller of Missioner Burma is coming up next. So stay tuned for that. A couple of the big surprises that run up for the 10-year show and the 10-year show itself. Hang out. It's 10 years, man. Jesus.
Turn sound into electricity.
Look, stay safe out there, man.
Can you hear me now?
And check you later.
Out on Route 128, it's dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. There is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey! This is a real goddamn emergency!